Welcome to What the Hell Did I Just Watch Movie Analysis. I am David Dunkledon, and today we are going to be looking at one of the most controversial films of all time, and that is, of course, Stanley Kubrick's horny fever dream.
Hello, this is David Dunkledon's partner in crime, Roger Henderson. I've been working in the film industry for the past 2.5 years, and I'm honored to be analyzing Kubrick's 13th installment, Eyes Wide Shut. This 2-hour, 39-minute long movie concerns Tom Cruise's struggle to maintain sexual superiority over his peers. I am genuinely flattered that David Dunkledon has chosen me to analyze this movie, as it is safe for me to assume that I have only watched this movie at least 117 times, over and over again. Back to the movie.
I have came to the conclusion that it is actually the greatest coming-of-age film of all time. This is obviously Kubrick's most mature movie, most horniest movie. I mean, it's just got everything. But at the end of the day, it's really from the perspective of a high schooler and dealing with life and having to interact with women and get jobs and money and having to work as a farmer.
And lube.
Stanley Kubrick references a lot of movies in his final installment, and I can safely say that I still remember almost all of them. I apologize if I miss a few references, as I am slightly hungover.
And because of this, of course, he escalates into drugs, and power gets to his head, and he has visions of Shakespearean quantities of gold pyramids. And this really gets to my head, because guys, this is actually all a metaphor for liberalism.
At the start of the movie, you may notice that Stanley Kubrick references the 1987 action crime sci-fi flick RoboCop. The reference starts exactly 3 minutes and 27 seconds into the movie when Tom Cruise unzips his silky brown trousers and whips out his massive black metal robo-wiener. He flings it into the air so marvelously and comes all over the fucking wall.
And basically, at the end of the day, we have to look at ourselves and wonder why? Just why? Now, when we look at this film, we see, yes, boobs. And what do boobs remind us of? Birth. And what does birth remind us of? Yes, you heard it here, folks. Planet of the Apes.
The 32-year-old Nicole Kidman proceeds to walk into the room, and it is up to the audience to imagine what happens next. Graphic as though it may seem, I will finally and once more repeat that this movie is about Tom Cruise's struggle to maintain sexual superiority over his peers.
What does Planet of the Apes and the director of this movie have in common? You heard it here, folks. Christopher Nolan. Yes, because of Christopher Nolan, his outlook on this film, and how it portrayed the vast majority of it, he came to the conclusion that sex is actually cool.
Seriously. Oh, that feels good. Oh, it feels so good. I missed you guys.
The second reference in the movie, a quite controversial one, is when Tom Cruise's wife Nicole Kidman is flirting with George Lucas's younger cousin. Kubrick did this in pure anger as The Phantom Menace was released in theaters on 16th May 1999, 2 months before Eyes Wide Shut on 13th July 1999. Kubrick could not bear the idea of people coming into this magnificent sexual marvel that is Eyes Wide Shut after watching
Jar Jar Binks slathering his juicy tongue all over the fucking screen.
Knowing this was going to be the case, he casted George Lucas's cousin to have sex off screen with Nicole Kidman and to make George Lucas himself jealous.
our online culture is actually based on this, and how the opposite of that opinion is actually harmful to our surrounding environment. And now, what Eyes Wide Shut is actually doing is, when you look at the whole 3-hour movie, you are actually looking inside of your soul and wondering, is Mozart the peak of music?
Tom Cruise realizes what is going on and proceeds to fuck everything in sight with his ginormous black metal robo-cock.
This one, there's Darth Maul falling to his doom. And there you are.
I'm hanging.
Hanging off the side. I was obsessed with this.
Oh my god, why hasn't anyone shown me that before? That is hilarious.
Anything that has a vagina in this movie, by the end of the movie, has been impregnated with robo-sperm. In my honest opinion, this robo-cock rampage was a total projection of Kubrick's desires that he was never able to fulfill before his unfortunate death on 7 March 1999, 2 months before he was going to explain how he faked the moon landing in vivid detail in a documentary that was going to be entitled
I fucking did it.
Now, when you look at that aspect, you then begin to ponder questions such as, is, education necessary and a better way to fulfill my enjoyment and a way to get your penis hard? And I beg to differ, actually.
The sexual projection that Kubrick depicts in the movie is comprised of mainly his own wisdom. Kubrick believed that you must be a teeter-totter leader. To be a teeter-totter leader, you must want something more than anyone else. Tom Cruise wants to have sex more than anyone else in the movie to start his robo-empire by impregnating as many women as possible. And the only way to do this is through sex. And the key to having sex is to be the loudest lion in the room. To accomplish this, you must roar and roar and roar and roar.
Or you can be a quiet little pussy in the corner and sit and cry and yap and whine, and you will accomplish nothing, mate. Nada. Zilch.
When you see this movie, and you see the masks, the masks are a way to cloud our vision and our way to hide ourselves from the fact that the government is concealing information about dinosaurs. Because, Kubrick was actually very good friends with Steven Spielberg, and they, had a long conversation about how dinosaurs is actually a metaphor for puberty.
I'd like to show you my dinosaur friends that I play with sometimes, but don't get too close to her. She'll bite your fucking head off.
Because puberty is the first step of horniness, and because of that, the dinosaurs use that foundation to get bigger and get bigger. And of course, when you're horny and when you're at a climax and when it's over, it is not a good feeling.
Personally, I think this movie's perfect. You can say otherwise, but there's no doubt in my mind that this movie is one of Kubrick's best films. We all know he had this idea in mind to make a movie about sex, but he was too scared of the critics' opinions, and he was frustrated because he knew if he made Eyes Wide Shut earlier on in his career, no one would have watched any more of his newer movies. The lesson to take away is don't be Kubrick. Make Eyes Wide Shut as your first movie. Don't be afraid of what other people think. Turn your critics into crickets.
And just like that, the dinosaurs were gone. Our visions of money and power have vanished. And here we are, folks. Woo! James Charles is in this movie, actually. And he was a little too horny for Tom Cruise. And that is actually, the metaphor for coming of age and spreading your titties.
We must transfer from a click-click selfie generation and go to a generation of service of other people. How can we be more loving and kind neighbors to each other? We must create connectedness and community. If we have community and connection, there won't be this violence and despair we see today in our society. And the number one thing lacking from America right now is making love number one and putting love first. To shine our light and tag others with our light of goodness, that should be the marker of greatness in America. How good can I be to my neighbors and those next door? You will never regret love given, but you regret love you kept. Don't be stingy on love. Be generous. Grow your love by what you give away. Your income is what you keep, but your impact is what comes from what you give away. So income makes you more luxurious. Impact makes you live longer. Impact makes you immortal. God save the Queen.
So thank you guys so much for watching. Please watch the movie again with this new knowledge, and we'll see you later.